Hey there, and welcome to Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you've ever tried to answer emails with a toddler pulling at your sleeve, or you wondered how to grow your business while chasing after your dreams and maybe your kids, you're in the right place. Every week, we'll get real about wins, messes, and all those magical moments in between, sharing practical tips, honest stories, and the laughs that keep us going. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Amariah Murdoch, CEO and founder of Infinite Exec, and you're in the right place if you're an aspiring or thriving mompreneur who's ready for real talk and all things babies, business, and boundaries. Make sure to follow us at Mompreneurs Making Moves on Instagram and Facebook, and then you can watch the full interview on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. Today, we have a very lovely guest, Jessica. She's a mom of 6 and a FamTech founder who's passionate about helping families feel confident and connected in their daily lives. She believes parents deserve more meaningful time with their kids and works to create tools that make family life lighter, more joyful, and filled with positive relationships. Jessica, how are you today?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there. Every day's a new day with a business, kids at the same time, but we are making it through. And I'd like to say thriving, but some days it's just surviving.
Yes. Yeah. And I'd love to talk about that too for just a minute. Before we do, what I always like to start with is tell us a little bit about you. Like, what should we think of when we think of you?
Yeah, I mean, I strive to be the mom best friend, right? Like the real talk when it comes to motherhood and all of the things that involves seasonality of life, that we're incredible and full of unique challenges that change from day to day, year to year, from kid to kid if you have multiple kiddos, and really just kind of being in the weeds. Like I'm doing this journey right alongside. My oldest is 9, my youngest is currently 8 months.
Wow.
Quite a spread and in the weeds of, the littles. But we're right there on the cusp of preteens and teenagers, which is, I hear, like a whole nother adventure. So I'm excited to just chat and, show up with some real wisdom from a mom, business owner, who's kind of just in the weeds and struggling too.
Yeah, no, I love it. And we're obviously going to talk about Launch Family and how you were inspired to get that going. But before we do, I just want to take a moment and say, okay, honestly, how do you hype yourself up as a mom? Because when you're doing business and you're doing kids, and then you're supposed to somehow have self care and shower and eat and sleep.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself up every morning?
Yeah. It looks different some mornings. I mean, sometimes it's I get up because my 2-year-old is pulling me out of bed. Some mornings it's the infant who needs a bottle. But really, like, some of my favorite mornings are those ones where I wake up with this renewed sense of like, okay, impact. What impact am I going to have with my kids today? What is going to be like the tone that we set, knowing that as soon as I step out of my door, the day starts. We're running. We're off to the races. And also how that translates over to the business. Everything that I do is really related to families and helping other moms connect with their kids. And so if I start my day dysregulated, how can I actually pour into other mamas, and make sure that I'm making, rooted decisions for the business and the reality of, the parenting life, the motherhood life. So some days are rushed as we would expect, but those days where I can actually like wake up with a refreshed mind and really pour in, are the days that I see the biggest sort of return on that too.
Yeah, I love that. And talk to us about like this idea of balance, being a mompreneur and trying to do it all. Is it possible to do it all? What are your thoughts on that?
Balance. I think one of the words that comes to mind is boundaries. I like to say boundaries over balance, and knowing that it's okay. Like for me, setting the time aside where I am strictly 100% focused on family, that is what I need because I have 6 children. And so sometimes it's harder for me to stay focused on the business if I've got 6 voices also coming at me. So I need that time that's just for them. With that same sort of precedent, like I need the focus time for work. So the boundaries of my time is kind of how I live my life right now in the season that I'm in. But earlier on, it was more balanced, right? Like, okay, I can write this email with the baby on my lap. I can check my email scroll while I am, making breakfast. And there's still days like that too. But I think for my current bandwidth, I'm like more boundaries over balance right now. But there's also totally a place for balance where it's like, yeah, ebb and flow with the seasons of life.
That is awesome. I really like that. Talk to me about, because this is something I'm personally struggling with as a new mom. This idea of like, okay, I know I have all this work I need to do, but I also really need to spend time, like you were just talking about. What does that look like practically for you to be able to feel that, like, okay, I'm setting that boundary in my time for both? Because when I'm with my family, I feel like, oh, I could be doing some emails right now. And then when I'm doing my emails, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're doing out there. Like, I just wish I could be with my family. And so that's been one of the hardest things for me as a new mom.
Figure that out yet. I still have all of those feelings too. A full transparency, if we're like watching a movie or something that we've seen for maybe the 20th time, I'm like, okay, is this really going to be that big of a deal if I respond to some LinkedIn messages or check my email? And I think that that comes down to just more leaning into the moment. Do your kids need 100% of your attention? Are they going to notice if you're doing something too on the side? Or are you willing to put it down if they say, hey, mom, I thought you were going to watch a movie with me? Oh, yeah, sure. 100%. I'm right here. So that's kind of how I've lived that part, just to try to help with some of the balance and the pull. On the other side of things, it doesn't actually, I can't be as productive if the distractions are coming when I'm in like the focus zone for work. But I would say like the urge for me is more of like, okay, what can I get done? How can I be most efficient with my time at work so that I can get back to my family and be doing the things that, fill my cup.
Yeah. And let's definitely talk about filling your cup because I am definitely depleted. I'm
We
trying
all
to
are,
think.
unfortunately, as moms. Like it's just a never ending.
And see,
leaky cup.
that's the other thing. Like I remember another businesswoman, she was like a mentor to me, and she said, look, say goodbye to sleep, getting sleep, and you're never going to be able to catch up. And I didn't love that because going into motherhood and seeing it as a blessing, but also having a business already, it was, like, I like to see it positively. Like, no, these are all great things. But when you tell me that I'm not going to sleep and I'm not going to have a life really, like that doesn't get me excited. But there is some truth to, less of you, right? So how would you phrase that then? How am I supposed to look at this as a new mom and business and babies? And isn't it a blessing to be a mom, to have kids and to have a business?
100%. Absolutely. It is a blessing. I mean, if you take a step back and you look at, people who strive to have a family, for people who are maybe fearful about starting a business, like there is so much to be grateful for, like incredibly blessed. I think for me, I try to think of it again. I'm going to come back to that word of seasons. We are in, my family specifically is in a season of, they need a lot of attention. The toddlers, the infant years, we're starting to get a little bit more of the independence with our 8 and 9-year-olds, but that's not going to be how it is forever. Like, I feel like I'm maybe sacrificing 10 years, 15 years of the grand scheme of my life to make sure that I can be there for them and bring them up in a way that they can be then citizens and contributing to society and like well-rounded people. Like to me, that's like the biggest mission and the biggest calling is being a mom. And is the business going to be booming? Maybe, but is my family going to be booming? Like the season of life that I'm in, when they're grown, when they're teenagers, they're not going to want to hang out with me as much. So trying to be mindful of they need me now and what a blessing that is. And this is temporary and a time that I will never, ever get back. Like I can't trade anything later in life to come back to this time that I'm currently in.
Yeah.
Or it's still temporary.
Yeah, no, and that brings up a good point because money, they say time is money, but we all know that's obviously one of the worst pieces of advice because if time is money, then you can only have so much money because you only have so much time. And there's just a lot around that. But one of the other things is this idea that when it comes to time, money you can always recoup, but time, right? Like when it's gone, that's it. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind and it's really important. So, speaking of time and trying to structure and organize and support families, well, let's go ahead and talk about Launch Family. What is it and who is it for?
Yeah. So Launch Family is an app and platform. So we have two things. We have a parenting coach that is based on research, best practices, child development. We have an expert advisory panel. So everything is like super high quality information. And what we do with the parenting coach is actually kind of filter it for your family. So as you're asking questions, it's actually giving you information based on your child's developmental stage, your parenting style, and things like, how do I talk to my child about lying? How do I set a bedtime routine? What is appropriate sleep for my 4-year-old? Like all those sorts of questions that we always have going around in our head of like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? That's really what we aim to answer with that is like, yes, you're doing the right thing. And here's some additional resources if you want to try something like this out. And knowing that it's closer than what you might get from a Google search or maybe a Facebook group at 2 a.m. And then we take that one step further with our Family OS, which is really like this executive assistant for your family, where she can pull information and, give you the birth dates of your kids. If you're the one calling the phone, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 6 kids to go through. I don't know the dates and the years. It gets confusing. That's my use case. Or if it's just like scheduling like the soccer stuff, like you have an update in a group me, having it updated automatically on your calendar, reminding you which days you signed up for snacks for which team, if you have multiple kiddos or multiple sports going on. So really that executive assistant for your home, that's also like that family shared knowledge base. So helping kind of illuminate some of that invisible mental load that happens and giving your family like a central source of information to be able to go back to.
Yeah, I could think of a few moms right now who'd be like, oh, where do I sign up? And as far as how it works, like, yeah, how does that work? Do we sign up and then there's just this onboarding process or something, I imagine?
Yeah, yeah. So we are currently in our closed alpha right now. So by the time that this airs, I'm not sure where we'll be, but definitely visit launchfamily.com is a great place to go to visit. And the wait list, or you can activate if the product is ready then. But yeah, simple onboarding just to kind of get to know you and your family. Any like belief systems, goals that you have that influence kind of like the general usage of the platform. And then the parent coach actually is part of the family assistant as well. So you can still access the parenting coach from your dashboard of your family. And really what we're aiming to do there is build out like this expert care team. So that way you can actually interact with pediatricians and ADHD specialists or things that you might not have close in your network, and to be able to kind of build this support system around your family holistically and have one really simple and easy to use interface for all of it.
Yeah, well, that's extremely valuable. Like that is something literally you couldn't put a price on. So that's really exciting. And I know it's going to help so many families and there's going to be a lot of great testimonials coming from that. So we're excited to follow your journey in that and see and support in any way that we can. Talk to me about what are some of the most common struggles you hear, from moms, and how does your platform address those?
Yeah. Some of the common struggles is really kind of like that analysis paralysis of decision making when it comes down to like even school. Like, do I send my child to public school? Do I homeschool? Do I go to a private school? Like that's what we heard a lot at like the kindergarten transition age of like just preparing for school or maybe preparing for daycare or preschool. There's so much information out there that it feels like great, I can find exactly what I need, but at the same time, it's so hard to find, and everyone has different opinions. I think another one is really that like the challenge of the after school time or like pre-bedtime dinner rush chaos that is what it is, where we're trying to do everything in a short amount of time and also soak in those moments with our kiddos before they go to sleep. And it really comes down to like the routines or like what do you value most in that time? Like, is it the family dinner that you really want to make sure is that foundation of your night, or is it like the bedtime routine with the bedtime stories? Because sometimes you might have to ebb and flow depending on the schedule, and that's really where the parenting coach comes in, is to be able to recommend like, hey, my meeting ran long, how can I shift my night, to being able to prioritize those family values that you have with the time that means the most with your kids.
Well, I didn't even really think about how family values are so foundational in moving forward with your family. Whether you and your spouse were married forever and your kids, a blended family. Like for me, I married and I gained 2 stepsons. And so we are becoming, have been trying to learn, how to be that family unit. And that's a whole other thing. And then we had our recent child. And so that's adding on and not replacing, right? But just growing bigger and sharing more love. And so that has in and of itself been a really, really interesting dynamic. So that it sounds
And the
like,
words, like even the words on how to communicate that, right? Like I noticed you just like said, we're growing, right? Not replacing. even just having the vocabulary to be able to talk to the other kids or even talk to your partner about like, okay, this is the way that I want to approach it with the kids, or how can we be cognizant of like the feelings and emotions that are going on behind their little faces as you approach some of these difficult conversations too.
Absolutely. And what do you think is the most important thing for a mom to consider if she's like, I want to get into business and I need to make money from home? Because one of the most common, I would say the number one thing that my viewers have told me they want to know is how to make money from home. So if there is a mom out there, she's got dreams and goals and she wants to help contribute, or she's the breadwinner, like there's a lot of different situations. What would you say to that mom who's thinking about getting into business? So doesn't have one yet, but is like, I want to make money and I need to get into business.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two paths that kind of emerge right away. One is like, okay, if I want to make money from home, looking for opportunities that align with your values and also like recognize the value of you as a mom. I see that rising a lot in like the business industries and things where, you know, we want moms on the team because you are incredible problem solvers and critical thinkers. And maybe you start off with just consulting. Like, what value can you provide from your experience? A lot of these like family focused brands and stuff too will pay you for your honest opinion on what, you know, they're building or what they're creating or how they're going to market. And then also, I think I'm going to say social media as maybe a place to just start practicing sharing your voice and like being like a public face, or like, again, you know, the product feedback there, you could get potential like partnerships that route too, if that's something that you're comfortable with. If you want to go like full business route, either of those could also turn into a full business. Like, you could do consulting full time, you could do social media full time, you could create your own agency or whatever it is. If you want to go like full business, like start putting the pieces into place. It's really hard to say start a business from an idea if you don't have like experience in whatever you're doing. So I would say if there's something that you want to do, like maybe try start consulting first and test the waters so that you're getting paid while you're also learning about the market, because building a business takes a lot of effort and time and momentum, and you want to make sure you're building in the right direction. And so if you can monetize any of that learning along, it'll help you also be able to propel your own business forward at that point.
Yeah, I love that. The monetizing your learning. I mean, if I could do that. And speaking of learning, like you have quite the pedigree when we're talking about degrees and education. And I have a few degrees as well. And my husband's actually going for his PhD. So, how does education, if at all, play into what you're doing right now in your business?
Yeah, I mean, my education has always been a reaction to the role that I have been happened upon or be placed in. And so, more so, I view education as a way to help me myself feel more confident. Like, I need the vocabulary, I need the language, I need to understand what's happening behind the scenes. So it's more to like boost my own confidence in my ability. Like, I can talk the talk, I can walk the walk now. You know, I don't have to feel like I'm maybe floundering or that I'm like the odd one out. And especially as, you know, my career has taken an interesting turn. Like, I was a public school teacher and I got my master's degrees in education. And then I joined a startup that was an ed tech and then became co-founder and then CEO. And like now I'm on my second venture. And so business was a big part of all of that learning. And that's really where you can pick things up along the way. And I would say learn as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can. Education also doesn't have to be formal. Like, it doesn't have to be in the form of a degree. But if you need that to feel confident in your ability, so if you need something that's structured, so that way there's no missing gaps, then a formal degree or program or certificate can be helpful. But you can pick up so much just by talking to people that are in the same space that you're wanting to be in or that you're currently working in.
Yeah, and actually that story that you just totally glossed over very quickly, I'd actually like to hear that one more time because that's really interesting. So you started teaching. You were a teacher, right? And I was a teacher too, actually. I was first grade for a few years and then I got burnt out, left halfway through my third year. And then I didn't have a plan B. I was just like, God, I need something else. I don't know what to do, but I can't walk into that classroom. My anxiety was off the charts. It's right after COVID, really, really hard. The expectations were like, be superwoman, fix all the gaps. And I couldn't do it. So yeah. So talk to me about your story a little bit more again. So you started as a teacher and then walk us through again one more time.
Sure. Yeah. I started as a teacher and I was actually in my fourth or fifth year teaching, and I was out on maternity leave with my third son. And I was having like all of those feelings of like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm not making an impact. Like where I'm hitting this brick wall within my district. Like something that's always been really close to my heart is advocating for the kids and also the families, like helping the parents understand what questions to ask, what resources to ask for, accommodations, modifications. Like special education has always had a huge chunk of my heart. And I felt like the district that I was working in, I just kept hitting this wall where I was like, no matter how much I tried to help prepare the parents, it was still falling. And these kids were still like slipping through the cracks. And then, of course, it comes back on the teacher too of like, oh, well, why didn't you ask for this? It's like, we've all been talking about this. Where have you been? And so as I had my third son, that also gives you like a different perspective as a parent to like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to be part of this because I don't know if my kids, I don't want kids to be part of this. Knowing the kind of like red tape and things that I was going to have to encounter. And so was on maternity leave in December of 2019. And then COVID hit as like the week before I was supposed to come back from maternity leave. And I was like, well, this is my sign. I'm just going to stay out the rest of the year. I started looking for other opportunities where I was like, I still am very connected to parents and education. Like, I don't want to leave that. Happened upon a job posting on Indeed for head of curriculum development for a learning app. So interviewed and got that position fully remote. I was like, oh my gosh, what is life outside of teaching? I have a contract that it says like you're at will. And I'm like, great, I'm going to get fired. Like, your contract as a teacher is like your lifeline. You're like, okay, great. At least I've got a year, to be able to like prove my stuff. But I remember that whole learning experience of like startup lingo. They're like, oh, we're pre-seed. And I'm like, I don't know. So that was a learning experience, and it really kind of helped, build that company. We pivoted the company towards a live class model with teachers. I was, of course, like the first teacher, conducting classes on the platform, and really helped grow and scale that to, where we were. We actually just closed down the business in May of this year, 2025. Not without a huge impact along the way, serving 15,000 families, and we were featured in Forbes and got some great recognition and things for the work that we were doing there. Very much still believe in what we were building, but took a lot of those conversations that we were having with parents on the daily about school choice and access to services. They're looking for an alternative to education, and they're like, I don't know if my child has ADHD. How do I actually help them? And we're like, well, here's how you can do it. And that's what really laid the foundation for Launch Family, which is like parents have so much that they're balancing. Nobody is an expert in all of the things related to parenting. So how can we crowdsource this information in a way that's super accessible for parents when they have the question? Like, I don't want to search through forums. I don't want to search through, video libraries of 100 plus videos from experts. Like, I need this information right now as I have the mental capacity to think about it and problem solve through it. And I need it to be tailored to my child, not a general person or a 10-year-old when I have a 5-year-old. And that's really what we aim to build with Launch Family, and honestly where we're headed because of that use case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's, I think it's an important reminder to know and understand that we don't know it all, right? And that we can lean on each other and have that community and that support, because the pressure I feel like we put on ourselves as moms, especially as ambitious businesswomen, is, it's just astronomical sometimes. And the idea, give yourself grace and lean on your community, find your tribe, all those things. I mean, it really is true, right? To be able to do the best that we can, we need each other and we need resources. And are there any specific resources that you would direct moms to currently, including obviously, Launch Family, but anything else that you'd be like, hey, you could use this or that, to help you in your journey?
I mean, I would say, as much as I say avoid social media, I would also say maybe lean into social media, because I know right now it's really hard to sometimes to find a physical tribe, right? Like a physical group of moms that you can rely on. So I would encourage you to join maybe a local moms group on social media as like a dip the toe in the water to see if maybe you can build a local group. I mean, that's like my biggest proponent. Like my biggest takeaway from this is find some moms in your area that you can rely on, that you can connect with. In my local area, there's even a mom So like if you're in business, like lean on that, or maybe like contact your like local chamber of commerce, see if they have any like women's luncheons or women's communities that you could potentially join too, because where there's women, there's most likely moms. So they'll have some of those shared values as well. But I think that in this age where we're in, technology overload space, there's something to be said about having that in-person connection, the person you can call when you've had a rough week and be like, hey, let's just come up. You want to have a play date? Let's just have our kids play and we can chat. There's just something so powerful about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I didn't even think about that because usually we feel isolated and overwhelmed. And, it's just when you get overwhelmed at some point, you either shut down or you're mentally at capacity. So there's not much else you can do. And those are not the best place to be in, right? Because our kids need us, our spouses need us, our parents might need us, our siblings might need us. Like there's a lot of different roles we play, right? And so being able to understand that there's a way to come out of that overwhelm and it's okay to be overwhelmed, but that's not the end, right? We don't have to be stuck there. We don't have to live there and that's it. Our life can be vibrant and take on a new identity, I guess. I feel like that's one of the hardest parts about being a mom as well is rediscovering yourself in some ways because you're not the same person and your mind and your heart will forever be connected to these little people that you help bring into the world. And, it just changes you. It's an interesting concept for sure. Well, I appreciate you and your time and gained a lot of value from this conversation. And I couldn't be more of, a promoter for Launch Family. I'm really excited to see that come. And we'll definitely be tracking that and we'll have links to that as well. Where can we find you if we want to connect?
LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there. By all means, would love to connect. My DMs are always open. Fellow mamas, fellow business owners, we're in this together. You're not alone. And I would love to connect there.
I love that. Love that. Love that. And I will also link below if you're ready to connect with Jessica. You'll be able to find her and she's ready to connect with you as well. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, all the things. And, thanks so much for hanging out with us today on Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you have found a little encouragement, a fresh idea, or just felt seen, we'd love for you to subscribe, share this with your mompreneur friends, and remember that every small step you take in your business and your life matters, and you're absolutely not alone on this journey. So keep showing up, keep making moves, and don't forget to take care of yourself too. And we'll chat soon. Again, follow us on Mompreneurs Making Moves on Instagram and Facebook. And you can watch the full interview on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. Jessica, it's been a pleasure, and we will be following Launch Family and excited to see your impact.
Thank you.